And sharing that inspiration is what I'm here to do. Like, that's my dharma. That's my puzzle piece. Like, I'm here to help you remember like how magical you are. And this is a situation. We can just show up in each moment with that love and with that hope that, you know, together as we start rising up and doing this work, it's not just us that's doing it. It's everyone who we connect with that's feeling it. And, you know, for light guides, every person you hold space with and every person they come in touch with, you know, but it's like holding that as the main frequency. Like this is where we are at, right? This is the world that we're holding. And then from there, you know, different magic can happen, but, you know, really choosing that heart energy, choosing that love and leading with it and inviting people into it.
Welcome, beautiful beings, to season 2 of the Cosmic Love Antenna podcast with your host, Harrison Ma. This podcast sets the loving intention of creating the mystical space needed to pull back the layers restricting health, alignment, and love. Now let's walk you home to your cosmic spiritual heart space. Good morning, evening, afternoon, magical beings. Welcome back to the Cosmic Love Antenna and another illuminating and luminous dive into a spiritual, health-related, mystical-related topic that I know is going to pull back some layers that are restricting your alignment, your health, and your mystical love. Today, I have the divine pleasure to have back on the show the lovely Allison. We're going to have a conversation about all things light as a connection portal, light as a portal to connection, light as a gateway back to deeper elements of consciousness, expansion, tribe, inner powers, inner guides, and all the things in between. Allison Pelissier is a coach. She's a healer. She works with psychedelic integration and activations around a lot of the Lucia Light, which if you're tuning in for the first time, I'll put our first chat that we had together talking about Lucia Light. We'll talk about it today, but I'd recommend you go listen to that and you can tune into Allison and her light in this world. I'm excited to welcome her back. Allison, welcome to the Cosmic Love Antenna.
Thank you so much, Harrison, for having me. It's such a divine pleasure to be here. I'm really grateful for the conversations that you open. I've been following your podcast for a little while now, and it's so great to be back again in this magical space.
Well, Allison, I received that love, and I feel I'm blushing a little bit to know that you're following the podcast, because it's as we shared when we first connected. as I shared when we first connected, a big part of this podcast actually I would stem to, first hearing your voice on another show and you speaking about the Lucia Light and my journey. So, I'm just really grateful that you're on my world, and it's been so nice to see everything you're expanding into and everything you're doing around the Lucia Light. So I guess with that love, let me throw some love back at you, because I want to know, before we get into all things light, what new love is in your world at the moment? So when I say that, I mean, that can mean many things, but what comes up when I ask that question?
Thank you. Beautiful place to start. Love is, everything and the beginning. But yeah, like as soon as you said the words love in your life, I just saw summer and just understanding the seasons of life and kind of the way of energy growing and coming to these big moments of being outward and shining and then kind of coming back together. And there's a great love in my heart right now, because many things that I've been planning and co-creating with this incredible community with the Lucia Light are coming together. And wow, it feels like a very exciting time. So love is really celebrating the summer of, that expansion of showing up and connecting and doing all the things we've been dreaming of.
It sounds like, Allison, when you share that, it sounds like a lot of the inner abundance or the inner creation that I think you do a very good job in cultivating in yourself is now manifesting. You're seeing the 3D version of it manifesting in front of you. Would that be accurate to say?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's exactly how it goes, you know. We plant these seeds, and as we water them with our practices, they start growing and showing up. And yeah, for me, it's waves. You know, I have periods where I'm doing some deep self work and being internal and caring for myself. And then there's these moments in which all the inspiration starts, you know, realigning and magic starts happening. So yeah, absolutely. Though it's so fun to see what we call in actually manifest.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of that, let's get into all things light. We will speak a bit about what the Lucia Light is. Again, I'll put the episode in the show notes where we went deeper into the machine itself and all the things. But I want to sort of start broad here, Allison, and see what comes up on your heart. When you connect into this concept of light as a portal of connection, what does that mean to you? That big smile.
Yeah, just feeling it. Yeah, I mean, to me, light is so, it can be such a broad word in a way, because it's like an energy that carries information. It's a particle and a wave at the same time. You know, it's like a little piece of everything and with different parts of the rainbow highlighted. And so working with light is really about going into oneself and witnessing the incredible palette of colors, the rainbow of delight that is really inside all of us, and just feeling that.
I can feel you. I can feel you feeling it, my friend. So again, we'll speak to the Lucia Light in a second here, but my journey with the light has helped me to remember, and this is why I'm excited to hear more about this event, and we'll speak about it at the end of the podcast and everything around the theme today of light as a connection. My journey with the Lucia Light specifically helped me and continues to help me remember the inner light that's always been inside of me. And in many ways, when we walk this journey, and this is my question for you, Allison, when we awaken our inner light in all the ways, right, and it can be outside of the Lucia Light as a machine, but just all the ways that we do it, I've noticed that we get pulled to certain people, right? We get magnetized as our light expands, right? Other individuals, let's use Allison as an example, and their light of illumination, there's like a little, I think I see it in my third eye, I see like a planet with an orbit, and those light spheres, those light fields, they pull towards each other. Do you agree with that? Have you noticed that in your world, Allison?
Yes, absolutely. You know, my journey with opening to my inner light has been about really seeing more definition kind of in that outer space and being able to really see how each person holds like a light code, you know, like a field of insight and information. And when we connect with each other, it's like different parts of us feel at home. And I think that's the resonance you're speaking of, and kind of that magnetism of there's like a sense of home, like my heart feels safe here. And, you know, and then from that heart space, there's this exchange of codes because it's a safe space. And then you can be like, here I am and all of my, you know, beauty and challenge and, you know, light and shadow, like here's my full presence, which is allowed, accepted because of that heart space connection, right? And then that's how we create this network of light, of supporting each other and rising up together, you know. To me, home.
And I love that description. Can I ask these are all personal questions, I guess, but I guess this is maybe a little bit more personal. When was the last time that you experienced that sort of rawness in sharing your fullest light and your fullest expression with someone? And I ask it because I know the last time I did that, and I'm very grateful for it, and it was beautiful in all the ways, but it brought up a lot of things that were unconscious, right? Were forgotten for a long time. And due to that other person's light and their safety, their support, like you said, they finally had the permission to be felt and to move through me. So I'm wondering, the last time that you opened up fully in your fullest light, what did that look like?
Deeply personal. What came to mind actually as you asked the question was, again, back to the community. I feel like my higher self and my presence here is really highlighting how community can be such a pathway to like our evolution. And as you said, as we become close to someone, as we really open the light in whatever way, in whatever type of love, because it's really unconditional love that is that layer beneath, what it means to really open ourselves. And so as we start this process of really opening ourselves, it's intimate. It touches those places that are super uncomfortable. It makes us suddenly notice a pattern in our own field, and we're like, oh, that's me. Like I'm doing this, So it is definitely a dance of bringing things up, and that's the beauty of it. I think we're all on a roller coaster of awakening right now, where we can open and feel and get uncomfortable and dance through it and just kind of connect in the next wave and practice being open, but also clear, and what we're holding. Like a big journey for me personally has been the practice of shifting from being very open, like completely open to everything and swimming in it and informed by all of it, to kind of being able to take that back in and to find my center and my light and anchor from here and then shine out.
Yeah. You do that beautifully, Allison. You do that wonderfully. Again, from afar, and even now in this interview, I see that process of shining happening. And I would feel, and this is where we can go next here, you haven't done that alone, right? Going back to connection and tribe and having someone support us outside of us. This is where that person comes in, right? To hold our hand, as Ram Dass says, to walk each other home, right? To walk each other home, in this instance, to that light. So let's segue here, Allison, and talk about one of the ways that you facilitate walking people home to their light is the Lucia Light. And for people that haven't listened to the first episode, that are tuning in, can you describe to everyone tuning in, what is the Lucia Light? What is this crazy, luminous light temple?
Absolutely. So if you have never heard of the Lucia Light, I welcome you to a magical phenomenon. It's really kind of a conversation between your conscious and subconscious that's being illuminated by a lamp with special qualities of solid and flickering light. And so in this conversation, you have your eyes closed and your brain is receiving this light from this lamp. And inside of your consciousness, this space opens, and how your brain responds to the light is that it creates all of these colors and patterns. It feels the information coming in. And even though science hasn't quite caught up to all of the magic mystery of what happens in the moment of translation, your brain creates all these beautiful neuro art patterns similar to what some people see in like a psychedelic plant
Mm.
medicine type journey.
Mm.
And so to speak to being a guide and walking each other home, I really feel that the Lucia Light is, a tool that I work with to invite people to come back to coherence. We can get stuck, and our brain can get stuck in different brainwave frequencies. And one of the things I really love about the Lucia is it's not trying to control your brain or to force it into a different type of contortion, because whenever we're thinking of what we really want in terms of alignment from our brain, from our mental capacity, we actually lose it. It's like we're trying to put something in a box that is just beyond. And so the Lucia Light's focus is, rather than to kind of put you somewhere else that we think is better, is to really invite you home into the coherence, into the harmonics, into the magic of your own heart, because that's where the magic is,
Yes. Well,
So
beautifully said, Allison. I'm happy you brought it all the way back into the heart, because I'll just share one of my experiences, and I want to hear one of yours, Allison. That has really been the greatest gift that the light activations around the Lucia Light has really given me, has been a awakening of my heart space that I have since in many ways gone deeper around. But for me, the light overall reminded me that the heart can be a lens that we view the world through, rather than just, as you said, the ego structures or the mental structures or the thinking structures that we think are the only reality, right? The limitations, the dogma, the programs from all the directions that we believe are the only way of being. The Lucia Light, and I would say light at large, gives us almost a ticket to the other way of being, right? And that's viewing it from the heart space. So I guess with that, Allison, it's been a while since I've chatted to you about the Lucia Light. What has been, since our last conversation, what has been a magical moment that you've got to experience that sticks out, either on yourself or with someone that you've walked home to deeper states of connection?
It's so great to speak with you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For me, I could say a few things, but one kind of repetitive experience I've had, as we become more aware of subtle energies, even just having this conversation, there's like these other layers of energy that are here. It's like you said, holding that lens of the heart. You start noticing other people who are holding the lens of the heart, and when you're holding it together, it's just magical. You're just like, oh. And, we're inviting everyone to join us and doing it and deepening ourselves, because it's a never ending process. But, something I've really seen in people time and time again that is so dear to my heart and is related to heart opening is that moment when the nervous system lets go. Like there's just something, like we're receiving input, we're receiving light, and then at a certain moment, like we're swimming through it, there's maybe some little thoughts coming in, things start kind of opening, and there's potentials, and then the mind starts quieting. And then there's this moment that I can witness and feel as a light space holder, light guide. And I can feel when people just, it's like, like sometimes you take a few breaths and you're like, oh, wow, I could have just wasn't breathing. It's that kind of feeling. It's I was like, oh, there it is. Like I'm home, and that's where I feel like that sense of home in the heart is so connected to that, because it's the nervous system just feeling safe. Like,
Can I add another lens to this phenomena that you're describing? And I think it's beautiful. And I've not only have I experienced it with myself, but I've experienced it with other people outside of light, outside of Lucia. And I think in many ways what it is a reawakening of the divine feminine in many ways that is in that heart space. And what I mean by that is we have all been programmed to get stuck under the illusion that we live in a very masculine, divine masculine way of being, right? Outward projecting, outward doing, outward striving, outward creating, outward taking steps. And that's all needed. Divine masculine's part of the polarity. But we've forgotten, for whatever reason, that there is a deep beingness inside of us that expects and gives us everything, expects nothing and gives us everything, right? We, and I'll just speak from my lens as just an example, right? I grew up religious with the idea that something's outside of me that I need to prove myself to. Otherwise, until then, I'm not enough. When in reality, what this feeling is the opposite of that, is I'm enough just because I am. And when I finally tap into that, some of those symptoms, those feelings, those sounds tend to come up. Do you agree, Allison, this?
Yes, absolutely. That's really well put. And yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that, that moment of the external, the shift from the external to the internal. Because actually, ultimately, and I've also seen people, I would say, get stuck on the internal part. It's kind of like, oh my God, oh, it's all for me. Like, oh, great, and that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's also that part of like, once you're filled up, like
sharing it.
Yeah, giving back. Like it's that, the tantric ebb and flow of life that really brings that juiciness in life about, life is about creating that, that pleasurable, energetic flow. So if you're just in either one, just like in your nervous system, just like all of it for me, I'm like, wow, it's all just about how we get stuck and like coming out of getting stuck. It's that easy. And the light, or this moment of deep eye gazing, or just, laying in the grass, or, looking at a view after a hike, like, or holding a tree. Like, wow, there's so many ways that we can really open the space. And yeah, it is. It's just allowing the energy to move. Or like we're afraid to receive because the world's been cruel to us. Like how many of us have been just, like, thank you, but like, I'm good. I don't need anything. I got this, put the heavy bag on and keep going. It's and at the other hand, once we're strong enough, it's like, how are we showing up, and what is stopping us from doing that? Because we are ready. People need you, whoever's listening to this, you're ready, like you're qualified.
and that's the light, right? Your qualification, the thing that you then share with the world after you've filled yourself up with the love in your inner space, right? That's the light, right? The love is the birthright. The light is how we share the love with the world. So it's, I want to shift here now to this sharing of the light and ask you, Allison, why is this needed now more than ever? Why do we need to not just share the light? Well, why do we need to share the light for connection right now? Can we wait? Why is now important?
I love that. I mean, for me, yeah, there's no need to do anything. That's kind of the medicine of the light and of being in that overflowing. It's like, do you need to do it? No. Like, doesn't the light need to be here? No. But actually, is there openness and awareness increasingly, which is fun, because we're just, playing in the Maya, like we're moving towards a time where people are more awake. And as part of that, there's more challenge, it's just kind of like, as you open wider, you touch those parts of yourself. I think we're all kind of really, expanding. And then from that place, it's a choice of, where we're directing that heart energy. And Yeah.
Can I ask, what are you seeing in your light community, in your Lucia Light community? And again, at the end of this chat, we're going to speak about a beautiful event that we're hosting together around this same topic of light and connection. Allison, are you seeing in your community, not just this expansion, but are you seeing it impact the world in a certain way? What are you noticing?
Yeah, great. And thank you. I was a little out there on that one. I was like, woo. Um,
My job.
but yeah,
I'm here to bring you
the
up.
heart can take you there, right? It's just like it opens so wide. You're like, well, wherever you lead, your heart is perfect. There's no timelines, but it's also about stepping forward. And what I am seeing in the community right now, on just in the greater sense that people are even interested in experiencing the Lucia Light, is that there's an openness, right? Like we're ready. We're like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's shift. And when you're ready, they say the teacher appears, right? And then when you get over it, the teacher's gone. Like when you actually make it, the teacher's no longer there. So you can look at things like the Lucia Light and other things that might show up upon your path as being, anchors along the way. And I do think people in general are increasingly aware because, psychedelics are becoming more mainstream phenomenon. Once again, the next rise is opening up. And there's still a question of like, do we need to do that much, or is that safe, or or how do we go deeper in those experiences? There's many questions around that. And what I've seen in the light community is, I've really seen a new kind of tenacity that has grown. You can see in people who have worked through COVID and like supported others through the last, the great pause, whatever you want to term it as, those, like, there's been like years under our belt. Like we've all grown like decades, I'm so excited because upcoming we have a summit for Lucia Light this coming weekend. And one of the reasons I'm super excited is because we've just all been through such incredible alchemical transformation in the last 4 years as light guides and creators. And people really have incredible offerings in ways that they're working with tools, in ways that they're showing up for their community, in ways they're holding space. And to come together for like lighthouses out there doing this work. And that applies to all work, people that are healers and running your own business, solopreneurs of whatever sense, or your artist. Like you can feel like you're out and your own, but there's these communities.
Beacons.
And yeah.
I think that's the word. Thank you for sharing that, Allison. I think that's the word, lighthouse and beacon. I think this is where I want to take the conversation next. I think within this journey that we're all on, and I think we could describe it as a journey from the head to the heart. Within that journey, I think it's very easy to get lost, right? It's very easy to get, I speak about this all the time on the show, stuck in the pain, stuck in the wounds, the stories, the limitations, the perceptions of reality that we think are true. And we might have the best intentions to be in that heart space, but we fall down. And it sounds like from what you're saying around the lighthouses and the light community, the beacons themselves become a sort of directory to help you to keep going, right? So let me ask a question about that. Allison, in your experience from doing this work with light at large, what are some of the most common blocks that you've seen as we take this journey from the head to the heart? So for example, I speak a lot about the inner child, right? Inner child wounds that come up of abandonment and rejection and things like that. What have you noticed as a consistent sort of challenge and block that comes up when people are trying to use light as connection?
One big block I've seen time and time again is subtle energy awareness blockage, meaning more that the person is adverse to their own method of sensing. And so it has some kind of hierarchy around sensing. And this is this is a huge block because really, to me, the journey between, the head to the heart is coming into the body, first of all. And they're like, oh, hi. Hello, magical friend. We're in this together. Like, let's have so much fun. But, and in that process, it can just be like, wait, I don't feel anything. Like, I don't feel any, I never feel anything. It's like, well, you seem to be feeling things because you have very strong emotions. People can have really strong emotions, but maybe that's not sensing, so there's all these, or like they have pains in their body, or, very subtle awareness of sound changes, or, there's so many ways in which our body or kind of awareness speaks to us through this medium of this planet, right? And that's what's so fun about being in a body, is like we actually have all of these ways to tune in. And so I really encourage anyone listening, if you've prioritized visual awareness as like needing to see something in that phrase, that's like a big block, that's kind of hiding. It's like a wall, and behind it's all these like magical ways of perceiving. So
this is a big topic that you're talking about. I didn't expect you to say this, but I'm so happy you have, because that beautiful description of starting to love on the body, we start to realize that we are a multi-sensory being. And yes, I would classify our physical vision and then our spiritual vision, our clairvoyance, right? That is one part of it. But we also have, as you said, our skin, but I would go further and say our clairsentience. We also have our hearing. I would go further and say our clairaudience, right? All of these spiritual abilities that we all have access to. But and this is a question I want to ask you, we place expectations on ourselves and we tell ourselves what we think it's going to look like, and inadvertently we stop the unexpected from coming in. So do you think we have a challenge here with expectations and attachment to that, Allison?
Beautifully phrased. Yeah, I feel like it is the expectations, attachment, and lack of ability to be present, right? So challenge with being really present. Because the thing about all of it is you can actually really play and be like, oh, what's going to happen next? And woo, 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 and be in that space if you want, if you keep coming back to your center and getting real. Like, the problem is not the creative flow of ideas and magic that's flowing through your life. The where it becomes challenging is if you kind of hold on to something as the way, you're like, oh, this is it, this is gonna save me, like that's the light, like, and expectations. Whew. Yeah.
Have you heard of the term? That's what I share with clients, and I remind myself of, become the hollow bone. Do you know what that means? For people listening, in shamanism, this is used to help people do exactly what we're saying, to be open to the unexpected, right? To step into anything as the student, right? Because that's what we want to be. We don't want to, as much as I've learned all the things and Allison's learned all the things, we want to continue being open to the things we don't know. Because I don't know if you experience this, Allison, but the more I've learned, the more I realize that the horizon of education, it just keeps going, right? It just keeps, like, it gets further and further away. Am I crazy in that? Am I alone in that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was so spot on. I mean, because it's the same thing, right? There's no way to know it all. I remember even actually as a kid, I was an avid reader, but I got to a point where I was like, oh my God, this terror of like, I'm not going to be able to read all the books. Like, what am I, I'm missing something, but when actually it's, just being so present and not knowing, like that hollow bone of being open to whatever's coming through. And again, even like this, I was like, oh, I had a moment before the podcast of like, oh, I didn't even really have time. I've been having so many things going on to think about what I'm going to say. And then it was just that reminder of just like, well, whatever comes through is what needs to be heard, because it's not even always saying the most accurate thing that matters. It's about the energy, right? It's like the how, the how we're approaching it, how we're doing things. This is what people are feeling. Our light codes that we're exchanging, and that anyone who's listening is feeling right now.
Yes.
These light codes are not because we have double PhDs, in quantum physics. It's because we're open to like the energy flowing in our
Yeah.
field.
So we could do a chat on just what you said right there, Allison, right? I would recall it becoming the channel, right? Opening up and for everyone, I want everyone to hear this, right? Your birthright of being a channel of divinity, right? A channel of divine frequency that expresses through our words, whether those words are understandable or not, right? It's so key, which flows onto another question I want to ask you, Allison, around this topic of light as a portal to connection. I've noticed, and this is what I'm going to talk about at the event this weekend, the Lucia event. I'm excited to share my experience with this. I've noticed that light has been a portal for connection, not just for me and outside people like you and Claudia, she's been on the show, and other beautiful souls, but it has especially been a portal for connection to other parts of me. So what I mean by that is, again, that presence of divinity, but let's just, step back from that. Let's just say, a higher self, or, if we want to get multidimensional, other aspects in different planes of reality. So without going too off into the galaxy, Allison, have you noticed this? Have you noticed this as an experience in your world?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear you dive deep into it this weekend. But yeah, for me, 1,000%. That was why I started working with the Lucia Light, was because immediately I found kind of the portal in it. And actually it took me a while to get back to it in a certain way, because there's different layers in which you can experience the Lucia, just like layers in which you can experience reality. So just as we said, you can call forward parts of yourself in a meditation, of your child self, and hold that part of yourself, the same way you can call in Kuan Yin. And you're like, Kuan Yin, and start feeling her presence and compassion and unconditional love in the field. So we can do all these things, right? And what the Lucia Light gives us is kind of an accelerated entry point or practice space, sacred space to practice that in. And so whether it's connecting with your guides, your higher self, or, ancestors, loved ones, I had amazing experiences personally, clients on that level, or parts of yourself in this moment of, defragging, kind of rearranging. Sometimes after a relationship, for example, there can be these places of pain, right? And you spoke about, being so open that you touch into those pain spots. And if you leave that in this hurt, dejected place, like this is a person you loved, like this is a person who you thought was ever like the coolest, most amazing, incredible person ever. That's why you love them. And so if you leave it in this pain place, you also recreate like a new template in your field to attract more pain, right? Until you can heal that. So it's a place for really going within yourself. And, have you read The Art of Contemplation or heard about it by Richard Rudd?
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, I love Richard Rudd. He's amazing. And if anyone hears this and doesn't know who he is, he kind of downloaded the Gene Keys. And The Art of Contemplation is a book that he came out with. And it's really about, doing this, like putting a topic or a memory or something or a person or relationship into this space of contemplation. And of course, the light in my world and life, just I get excited because I was an amazing tool to work with. I'm like, ooh, I can just pop it in the light. So it's a magical space to put something in to contemplate and to rearrange and to allow different brainwaves like move away from rigidness. Like we want to be flexible. And I think I touched on this earlier, but that's a healthy nervous system. That's a healthy body. That's a healthy life, is actually flexibility. And being really present, enables so much flexibility. It's incredible.
It's interesting, Alison, as you share all of these deep divings into our inner world, all the different aspects of being. From a funny perspective, it really makes me wonder. I don't need to leave my home, right? I don't. Yes, I want to connect to other souls ultimately, and be in the world and have all the interactions, be in relation, right? So important. But there's so much I can do on my bed with that Lucia Light, right? There's so much I can do in a meditation, right? There's so much I can do with, any tool that we decide to use. And I think it brings up the point of, I hold the Vedic perspective, and I think you do as well, that there is no outside reality, right? There is just our inner state of consciousness that we project through our current lens of awareness, right? So if I'll give an example and get your thoughts on it. If my life isn't going the way that I want, like, let's connect it to the topic of today's show. I'm not connecting to the people I want to connect to. I'm not having the relationships, the friends, the lovers. Then I could go out there and force things, push things, be in that pain. Or I could come home, sit down with myself, and go jump in my spaceship, my multidimensional spaceship, and go for some diving in my heart and change my inner reality so my outer reality reflects that. Does this resonate, Allison?
Oh, so good. I love that. So well put. I said, wow. Yes. And it is exactly that, it is a reflection, and there's nowhere to go, really. Like, anywhere you're going to move in physical space, your issues are coming. Like, they're not like hanging out behind. They're not like giving you a vacation. They're like, oh, I'm going to be there. Like, just when you try to relax, like I'm going to be showing up. So it's not about escaping, but it's like, if you're like, oh, I can go on a vacation knowing, like, loving them, like coming into, coherence within yourself, then that's way better than having them irritate you. And then when they're like, okay, actually, I feel better, and they leave you alone, then, then the things that you want will start coming into your life, because you also have the bandwidth, and sometimes something I like to remind people is, like, you only have so much energy and so much bandwidth. And so it's not about being everyone and everything. And there's so much conditioning. So it's not personal. Like, it's just realizing, like, we all have all this conditioning that we're supposed to be like everyone else. And there's this, the opposite side of this, like, as a herd mentality. So of course we need to be social, but then there's all this, like, people jumping on conspiracy theories and, like, everything getting really rigid, right, in another way. And so some of us have just retreated out. So I would also say, on the other side of it, socialization is important, right? There's a balance here, because there's also a way to be like, and I've been there, where I'm like, I'm not in the mood for, like, everyone, like, my frequency right here, right now is aligned, and I do not want to leave the house. Like, I am good with that. Like, so there's, of course we have different moments, but as light workers, if you're able to hold that frequency, then, my challenge to you is to get out the door and keep holding it out the door and shining it,
Can I share with this exact point, can I share a little image, analogy, metaphor that was recently I heard from, forgetting his name. He wrote the book on Eros. I'll put it in the show notes, but a beautiful man that I listened to, a mentor in my life, shared this analogy of the spiritual awakening journey. And it describes beautifully what you're saying around this choice of going inwards, doing the work, but then also having the opportunity to then step back out into the world. And he describes it as a puzzle piece, as a beautiful puzzle network, a jigsaw puzzle. And there's 3 stages. And I'm sure we've all heard versions of this, but the 3 stages are the important piece. First stage is we feel we're the piece that's disconnected from the world. And we feel like we're isolated, we're alone, we are not special, and everyone else is over there doing their thing, but I'm just this unique piece, but is uniquely maybe broken or flawed or not enough. Stage 2 is we awaken and remember that not only is none of that true, but I am a part of the oneness. I connect back into the bigger picture, and there is this ever expanding godliness outside of me that I am inextricably linked to, right? But then stage 3 is seeing that even though you're a part of the oneness and connected to the all the time, within the jigsaw puzzle, you have a unique outline that is needed for that God to be, not just to be complete, but as you said, start to expand, right? Because what is consciousness? Consciousness isn't stagnant. Consciousness, or God, is ever growing. So this last stage, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, Allison, is not just remembering that we're connected to the all and that we have divinity inside of us, but when we do decide to share our light, that light is adding more God to God, or adding more oneness to the oneness. How's that feel?
I really feel that. Yeah. And then it speaks to what I was talking about before, like our light grids, and how you said people are drawn to each other. And then, in that lighting up, we impart things together and we hold a new frequency. And for me, to be brutally honest, in the, Allison, very human part of myself, there's moments that arise where I'm just like, ooh, we are in trouble. We're really in trouble as a species, as, a collective conscious, there's a real feeling of the depths of some of that. And however that shows up for you in those moments, there's, for me, a reminder that the really only hope I see is that we could do it together. Like, we can't do it alone, right? And that's the same thing with the unity consciousness. It's not like about me being this really famous person that's out there, like everyone looking. It's like about all of us rising up and everyone and seeing each other. And then more and more people just getting magnetized into that vibration. And then from there, again, our outer reality is going to change, right?
Yeah.
If, and for people who feel that environmental pressure and all of that, it's real. And remember, like, we need you to hold the frequency of that collective of what's possible to shift, after we come into this next stage of consciousness. Because the amazing thing about humans, which sometimes I forget in my, moments of frustration with how we're living on this planet and interacting with the most super sacred being of Gaia, is I remember that, together we're figuring it out, and we chose to do this all together. And that, the earth chose us and chose to have this experience. We all we opted in, we checked that little thing. Like, I want that email, we chose it and we're here. So it's like, we don't have to belagger all of the pains. We can just we can be like, okay, I opted in, I'm here. Yeah. This is the situation. We can just show up in each moment with that love and with that hope that, together, as we start rising up and doing this work, it's not just us that's doing it. It's everyone who we connect with that's feeling it. And, for light guides, every person you hold space with and every person they come in touch with, for any light guides on any type of light guide, whatever that means to you, if you're a sound healer, you're holding, shifting frequencies. Yeah. And so
by shifting frequencies, by just being you, right? I think that's the magical part of it. You're helping people in the way that you beautifully outlined, by being nothing else but you, right? And the moment that you think otherwise, the moment that you think you need to be something else, is the moment that that frequency stops, right? It's blocked because it doesn't know how to express itself any other way. And so when you put on the mask of, I have to be this thing because that person outside of me said that stops your healing, right? This is such an awakening moment for me, because as I was listening to your analogy, getting that email and opting into it, I think we're all getting the email, but most of it's going to spam, right? For most of us, that email is going into our junk. And because we're putting on all these masks, right, that we think we need to have on. And going back to, this is my next question here for you, Allison, going back to that divine feminine heart right? That space of love in our heart space. If we just connect into that, we realize we can just take all that off. And once we've taken it off, we move the email out of spam and we realize that our unique frequency was always the thing that was needed. So the question here for you, Allison, is what does love have to do with it? What is what is the role of, without me singing, what is the role of love in this light journey? How does love play a role?
Oh, what does love have to do with it? I mean, love is infused in every single droplet of this reality, every crystalline grid of it. I think it's waiting behind everything. And, we're talking about that filter over it. You put it in spam, you had an automatic filter that was like, I'm not ready to feel love. It was just like love, and your body, your system contracted, and you're like, oh no, not yet. Like once things are better, then I can have love, and love has a way, just like water has a way through stone. Love is pervasive, love continues. And for me, a huge step that I can really feel and notice in others around me that have gone to the places about that truly like unconditional love in terms of different types of relating, right? Like holding the first layer, like the undertone or like the heart space, maybe because it's kind of in the center, it's through the heart, but it's like holding that as the main frequency. Like this is where we are at, right? This is the world that we're holding. And then from there, different magic can happen, but, really choosing that heart energy, choosing that love and leading with it and inviting people into it.
Allison, you do that so well, my friend. I think I shared this at the start of the podcast and the other episode we did, but when I first heard you speaking about the Lucia Light, that podcast many years ago at the Lifestylist podcast, the Lucia was interesting, of course, because I ended up tuning into that world. But I think the thing that inspired me the most, and I hear it now in this conversation, is the inspired love that you have behind it, right? And I think you do have a mission that is very specific to Lucia. But at the same time, I think what's probably more important is the love that you infuse into it, right? And it's infectious, right? It's infectious not just because you're doing it. It's infectious because it inspires me to do the same, right? In my work in the world. And I think that is a teaching in itself, right?
Oh, Harrison. Yeah. And it's beautiful you say that, because for me, it's truly it, right? Love and sharing that inspiration is what I'm here to do. Like, that's my dharma. That's my puzzle piece. Like, I'm here to help you remember like how magical you are and inspire you to get on your mission. And it's funny because in the beginning you said I'm a coach, and I thought like, oh, I've always been a little adverse to the word coach personally. So I Ubered on acid on Instagram and stuff, just being able to laugh at the spiritual sense of ourselves where we think we're kind of like, I don't know, guiding, it's interesting, right? We have all these connotations, but then I was feeling into it and I was like, oh, there's resistance in me to kind of needing to lead that way. Like, I just want to walk my path. Like, I don't need to, and see you. Like, all we have to do is see each other. We don't actually even have to be like, in fact, I don't like coaching. I do a group summit, like the accelerator. Here's anyone who's listening from the accelerator. I love you so much. And yeah, like my highest excitement is not like reminding everyone to do stuff. It's tuning in together and hearing each other's stories and stuff. It's like at the end of the day, we have to be our own coaches. Like, we have to get our own stuff together. Like, it's about our own path. I'm not here to cheerlead anyone along the way. What I'm here to do is, invite that heart space, like the true joy that I feel for the work and for my life. And that can be felt it's deeper than, like congratulating someone. It's not like about you're awesome. It's like about, yeah, we're doing this. We're doing this together. Like, it's a unite.
Yeah. It's a seeing of that godly consciousness in each other, right? That's interesting. I want to hear about before we wrap up today, I want to hear about the conference, but I need to say this, like we don't need to congratulate each other, because that power, that worthiness, that presence, that love that we've talked about, that light that we've talked about today, it's there. It's like, it was never not there. It was never not there in a case of, I need to congratulate you to get back to it. So I think what you're trying to describe is celebration isn't needed because you were there already. And I think a word that I would replace with coach, if it doesn't work for you, my friend, is a mirror, right? A divine mirror. When you stand in that light, you can help others see theirs, right? So let's tie a little beautiful light bow on this, Allison. I really enjoyed dancing with you today and talking about all things love and connection and light itself. For people that are joining live here today, I see all of you beautiful souls in the Facebook chat and on YouTube, LinkedIn, and even on the podcast, because this will be coming out at the time of this recording this weekend. Allison is putting on a beautiful event that I'd love to hear her talk about, that I will be speaking at, that is centered around this topic, right? Light as a portal to connection. So I'd love to hear you speak about it, Allison, and why you're excited about it.
Thank you, Harrison. So as a community, we are really rising up right now, the whole light world. I'm so excited about it. Like I said, we made it through these challenging times holding space, and I feel like everyone has come to this new place. And so it's actually called Perspectives. And my goal with it was to actually hear different perspectives from around the world of people who are working with this incredible technology. For example, Kat out here in Colorado, who's an osteopath, and she works with the fascia and understanding how to unwind the nervous system with the Lucia Light. Or one of the inventors, Dr. Dirk Krokel, will be speaking on being like a mystic and psychomagic and psychoneuromagic. And like, wow, like having a neurologist who's, open to all this incredible phenomenon speak. And Engelbert Winkler is another doctor who invented the Lucia, and he's also speaking on the art of dying and the Lucia Light. And so there's so many things. I can't list them all, but I'm really, really excited to have the space. And so I basically, my Dharma again, because I'm in this overflowing place. Like Lucia has been a really essential part of my life for the last decade, but I can feel my soul growth into what I'm really here to offer coming through more and more. And, it's kind of like that opening, that safe opening to who you are. There's layers, and Lucia will always be a tool. So I feel like I'm, engaged in a big hurrah right now to celebrate the community, invite the community to really step forward, step up, step together as well, and move into more of a collective feeling. I feel like I've been kind of driving the way for a long time with a banner, like, come on. And I'm kind of like, how cool would it be if we had like a collective of people, so I'm calling forward new possibilities. I'm really grateful for that. Like, I really am so grateful to open a space for people to share, people to come listen and support and ask questions and connect and be inspired ultimately as
I love it.
On the world.
I love it, Allison. For people tuning in, if you're interested in this event, I cannot recommend this enough. If you're in my community, like this the Lucia Light and Allison specifically has been to say that she is a lighthouse would be drastically underestimating her impact on my life, but she's been a lighthouse in my awakening journey. And I know that she can be for you too, and everything that she's bringing together with this event. So I will put a link to the event and how to sign up and how to join. I will be speaking. So if you're interested to just see me talk, Allison will be interviewing me, I think around this time next week, actually, same time, almost, I think earlier. And we'll be talking about higher consciousness, connecting to our deeper parts of ourselves through light, as we spoke about a little bit here today. Allison, my final question for you is, I'm just personally interested in this, but I think people who follow you will be interested to know. You just gave us a little snippet, or you left us hanging with this new stage that you are stepping into around your soul gifts and your soul path that you're awakening to. And I'm sure there's much more to come. But where do you see yourself stepping into the future? What purpose, passion, gifts do you see yourself embodying?
Thank you for asking. And yes, we'll see how the incredible unfolding happens. It always throws some surprises in there, at least for me. But yeah, I've been offering intuitive sessions, and that has felt really great. My people have been kind of coming out of the woodwork to really express their thanks in the sessions I've been giving, which has been very honoring and almost uncomfortable way, talking about receiving. And so I'm moving more into doing that type of work, doing healing work. And, my heart work and excitement too, in relation to the Lucia Light and other light technologies, frequency technologies, such as the Therify. I'm really excited to move to more of a kind of a collective of some sort. I see forming. I've been seeing it for years, but I'm starting to really see it happen now, where there's a group of people who really want to be peers coming together, kind of holding more of a community space for these type of technologies and this type of awakening work we're doing. So I can spend more time in my channel and my gifts and sharing that directly.
I'm so excited. I send you so much love for that, Allison, and I'm sure, much like this stage of your journey, this next stage will be just as luminous and bright. And I think you're a symptom of, as we've spoken about today in a couple of different ways, of this greater awakening and pull to coming back to tribe, right? Coming back to not just being the powerful beings that we are, but being in deep connection, right? Title of the show today, connection to others, to empower each other to grow, right? So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your connection. I love you very much, and I appreciate you spending time with me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Harrison. Yes, thank you for touching so many hearts with your, all the ways you do. And you're such an incredible mirror and guide and friend. I love you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited for the continued unfolding of perfect present moment. So
me too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Allison. Beautiful beings, thank you for spending time with us today, either on the podcast or live. If you got some value out of this chat, please share it out far and wide to a friend, a family member, a lover that you think it can support and illuminate. If you're interested in this event this weekend, it'll be in the show notes, so click it and join. We'll see you there. But regardless, we send you so much love. We send you so much light. And until next time, be beautiful. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna with me, your host, Harrison. If you gained value or this episode hit your heart, please remember to share this out with a friend, a family member, or a lover. You can also leave your love over on Apple reviews and Spotify star feedback, and this helps me spread my frequency to more souls in need. Finally, if you want to connect with me deeper, want to reach out, interested in coaching, please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Harrison Ma, Ma spelled MEAGHER. Sending you so much love.
Electricast.